This conference will
It,
now be recorded.
thank you. It always tells us it will. And then when what we're looking at here, guys, is the FTP for crisis, domestic violence. Anybody in your space that has access to the service can go here and check out the resources that we put up here. So there's a guide for the service, right? And this guide is by the number that you're assigned to, and you'll be on 20121. And when you open up this guide, it's just a pretty straightforward guide, right? It walks you through each of the steps of getting started. The email information that you get, the invitation to activate, the link that you go to. This link is the production link. This link is just information about the service. And then this is where you do your work. And these are browsers that you can use. Now you can include Chrome in there. You can also include Edge. We're going to be updating our guide in the next couple of months as we do a new release. We have a new release scheduled in the next couple of months that's going to be sort of a fresh new look of the user interface, same functionality, but just a fresher sort of more modern look, right? It's a very functional website that never was super attractive. Well, now we're going to try to make it a little more attractive, a little bit easier on the eye. And then when you go on the service, you just click the website. Now you can bookmark that website. You can be logged in. You can stay logged in. You don't have to log out, log back in, only unless you want to. And then when you do log in, you come to the page that you last viewed. And usually that's the users tab or the inbox where the messages are for the clients and where the clients are. And then this guide here, walks you through each of the things that you also need to know about handling a live encounter, having a conversation with somebody. How do you set a group message? How do you send out that group message? How do you monitor the group messaging? How do you run reports, right? All these things are all covered in this guide. The conversational component is probably the most important part to keep mindful of, just because it has a lot of parts to it. It has a beginning, middle, and end. We modeled it after a call, in fact, in that the phone rings, you answer that call, you have a conversation with somebody at the other end, and then hopefully you meet their need, and then you hang up the phone, and the system and the encounter in the text message world that we've developed runs that same course, in that somebody can text you, that's the opt-in, the ringing of the phone, you get an audio alert, a visual alert in the queue that tells you that somebody is texting you. You can have reminders that are telling you, kind of like, voicemail letting you know that you've got a pending voicemail, or the same kind of thing. You've got notifications that remind you that you've got an unanswered text, and you can click on those notifications and open up that conversation. You open up that conversation and you answer the phone, right? You're picking up the receiver, saying hello. And then when you're open and in progress with the case, the status will change to in progress. You'll see that. And then you're in conversation mode with the client. You have a back and forth conversation with them, just like you have a voice conversation with somebody on the phone. When you're done with the case, you close it. You hang up the phone, you close your text message case, and it archives. And there you go. Now you're going to see characteristics when we log in, we look at the user interface. You're going to see characteristics of email. You'll also see characteristics of instant messaging. So those two things combine to make up the software as we know it, as PreventionPays. And the different statuses here are just letting you know about where you're at within the conversation that you're handling. You can have concurrent conversations with the software. all kinds of wonderful things about the way the software works in having a queue, and the queue is active and live, and so it has live updates, and so you can work with the queue similar to how you work with an email inbox, but it's that you're texting people. And you can have follow-up texts, and you can have follow-up surveys. I mean, there's so many things that you can do with text beyond the conversational piece. So conversation is one thing, but we also provide ad hoc group texting, appointment reminder software support, and so you can do a different kind of appointment reminder in that we advocate for one that has the ability to confirm your appointment at the time you get that appointment reminder. So, you're confirming your appointment by texting something back, and then by responding, either confirming or if you need to reschedule. And then what happens next if they want to reschedule? So rather than it being kind of a closed-ended one-way street where an appointment reminder goes out, which is nice and effective, but what happens after that? And so we want to help you with that piece as well, if that's something you guys are interested in doing, because we think that, it's just as much about what happens next as it is about the event itself of the text going out to that client and letting them know about their appointment. And then we support any kind of group texting, ad hoc group texting, meaning that you can build groups kind of like you can build email listservs. So if you've ever done that, where you put together a group of emails and you sent them something different than what you've sent another group of emails, you can do the same thing with the texting application, and that you can build little affinity groups of people that this is my group, or this is the group that gets the messages about this class, or this is the group that gets the messages about these upcoming events. So unlimited grouping capacity, which is really nice because your clientele and their needs are that way. I mean, putting them in one group one day, maybe you need to put them in an entirely different group a week from now. So we enable you to do that kind of shifting with the client as they change and their needs change. So other things in this FTP folder, guys, in addition to the short code guides, right? The user guides. Information that you might want to know about our security protocols. So what we use to store and archive all of the data. It's not, you're not storing it on servers, on your servers, we're storing it on our servers. So we provide to you our HIPAA assurances, how we store and archive dedicated servers, co-located data centers, thumbprint access only. We manage and directly manage all of the security protocols related to the storage and the archiving of the data, and we're very transparent about that. It's not this sort of Amazon cloud where something goes wrong and nobody knows what to do, right? We know exactly what to do if something goes wrong because the servers are under our surveillance and monitored by us and managed by us and built and assembled and all of that by us. So in addition to all of the security, and there's getting started documents as well. So what is the call to action, right? So putting a notice on your website, if that's in fact something you're going to do, right? If you're going to invite people to text you, then there's suggestions on how to do that. And we're going to give you a list of keywords that you can use. You can also set up additional keywords. So don't feel like you're bound by the keywords that we give you initially. We just give you some keywords to start with. And then as you guys evolve, you can add more keywords at your discretion. And then the call to action here is just what you would post on your website. So this tells you, okay, so if you're going to let people know that they can text you, this is what you would say. And it doesn't have to be a website post. It can be something that you put on a Twitter feed or a Facebook feed or whatever. There's plenty of social media tools and ways to provide notice and let people know that they can reach out and text you. And so that's always available to you. And if you do put it on your resident website. So the website that you use for your business and the website that you use for people as they go and come and see you and learn about your services, then you need to put just this somewhere on the page where this call to action appears. And you can place this in the footer. You can also use this link here. You can take the content from that link and put it in your terms and conditions. You don't have to point to our website. We just, as a courtesy, post it there, and you can use our link if you like. And then this is just all about end user privacy, that if somebody changes their mind and they don't want to get text from you, they can text stop at any point, and that will opt them out and end any messages that they're going to get from you. Now, if they change their mind, they can change their mind and opt right back in and text the keyword again, or you could put them back into the service, send them a message, and they're back in. So that status of being opted out or opted in can change just based on their preference, and either you opting them in or them opting themselves in. And then the other things you might want to have a look at, canned responses. So canned phrases are things that you may use during your conversations. Any number of canned phrases. We provide you with samples, but you guys can, of course, ask for more samples, and then you will also have the ability to add whatever ones you want to use. And what's nice about the application is that you can have unlimited number of canned phrases, and you can group your canned phrases. You can subgroup them, so you can have a lot of variety of canned phrases that you use. Some seasonal, maybe some for certain types of clients, some for others. You can also have personal canned phrases, so that when you log in, you're working with just the ones that you have access to, as well as the ones that are available for everybody, so that you can really personalize your conversational experience, so that it's just, these are the ones I like to use. And when you log in, you see yours. When other people log in, they see theirs. It's nice. So have a look at the canned phrases and kind of get an idea of all the things that are available to you in that category as well. And then we also open up our resources in terms of, if you guys ever have a need to do a program where you're targeting certain sectors of the population, or you're interested in materials that you would put maybe up in a community, posters. This used to be more prevalent, these kinds of projects, these kind of programs, they used to be funded. Not so much, you really have to, as an agency like you guys, you really have to kind of find where potential funding is for these types of projects. But if it ever comes along where you're going to partner with a local agency or something like that, where you want to provide outreach, and it has that part of the program where you want to put notice out there in the form of a poster, or in the form of a takeaway card or a brochure or something like that. We have a lot of open source content that we've built over the years that we provide to you as open source. So you can download them, high resolution images. You can request just the image and totally redo the poster, whatever you want. We provide you with unlimited access to all of the things that we've built over the years. So that's kind of nice, because sometimes these programs, they can really make a difference in a community. Especially when you go into the places where your priority group is most prevalent, and maybe you guys do some work with some schools, or you do some work with hospitals or something like that, where a poster in an emergency room could really change lives. And so, like I said, we open up our door to you. You can use whatever you like, and it's there for the taking. So anybody can come to this FTP and search through it and check things out. We also give you access to any of the content that we've developed over the years for some of the PowerPoint presentations that we've done on texting and crisis support. This is very well researched and evaluated now. So we have content that's there for you in that category. Blog posts that we've done over the years on crisis and texting and domestic violence and texting, things like that. So that's all there for you as well. And then when you log in, you're going to enter your email address and your password. And then you come to the page that you last viewed. And so this is the website that you guys will be logging into when you do log in. And then this is your queue, and it's an empty queue. I'll show you what happens when somebody opts in. So I can text the word SafeLight to 20121, and that's going to push me into your queue. So let me go ahead and do that. So all I'm going to do is I'm pulling open my phone, and I have the short code 20121 already saved here, and all I'm going to do is send the message SafeLight. Find this. Okay. And that can be one word or two words. And then when I opt in, it's going to show up in the records there as being a new opt-in. Now, the audio alert, if I had that turned up, we would hear the audio sound of a new text coming in. It's a soft little sound and a little dinging noise. And then the line blinks periodically. And so you get a visual alert as well. And then if you check notifications, well, then that's going to be a pop-up window that pops up every 3 minutes telling you you've got a new unanswered text in your queue. So as you can imagine, you can be there for people just in the same way that you're there for them maybe in phone support, but in that you're reaching maybe a slightly different audience, because there's going to be folks who maybe can't use a phone or maybe have trouble using a phone. And so if that's going to be the case, then you can mirror your helpline and offer text support and be there for them in that same way. It's just you would have a text conversation instead of a voice conversation. And then when they come into the queue and you want to have a look at that case, you can click on that phone number, and then it tells you everything that transpires. So what we did here is we have the keyword that comes in, and then we see the date and time when we scroll over that timestamp, and we see that that came from the source phone number, SMS, so text, to your agency. And then when we scroll over this timestamp, we provide carrier-grade message delivery receipts. Now, this is important. This is so you can tell your funders that without a doubt, you can support everybody by text that would ever want to text you. You can also tell your funders that you would be able to track all of the conversational elements of that encounter in a way that is as good as it gets, right? As far as being able to know when the message was sent and delivered to that phone number, the best it gets is a delivery receipt from their carrier. Other than that, it's them calling you up and telling you, I got your text. That's not going to happen. So what we give you is we give you the best possible way to tell you that your message was delivered, and that's from the carriers themselves. And this includes all carriers, right down to the government-issued carrier. Most of the small carriers use one of the bigger carriers' networks. So if you are familiar with how the mobile carrier industry works, those cut rate plans, the ones that you can get for very reduced rate, even those use one of the bigger networks usually. But everybody's covered no matter what, and we get delivery receipts for all of it. So if ever there's a problem, hey, I texted you and I didn't get a response, or hey, I texted, or you were going to text me at such and such time and I didn't get that text. You can have, you can pull open, you go, what's your mobile number, your name, and you search it up, and you find their number, and you look over the delivery receipts, and you say, well, actually, carrier said that we delivered that message at such and such time. Well, then the issue is about whether or not you have the correct mobile number for them, not about whether or not the message was delivered, which is wonderful. That's why we do that. We've done it from the start since 2006, and we're sort of leading the way in that regard. And by having this kind of support, you can be confident in supporting your community with text messaging. You can feel strong about that. Over on the right-hand side are the attributes. So we refer to this as the inspector. It's the thing that comes up when you click on a phone number. So it pops up, it shows you the characteristics. I see a few extra things up here. You see name down, and then you see the notes, and you see the data markers, and you see the surveys and series. Now, the characteristics of the phone number that I'm looking at, so the attributes, the user attributes, right? I can edit, and I can put, for instance, a name on a client. And then now I can update this. And now when I'm looking at this case, I see that it's a phone number, but now it has a name associated to it. And that's also stored in the profile as well, in the attributes section. If I generate a note, right, this is sample note. If I generate a note, then that gets time stamped and date stamped at the moment that happens, so that all of your notes are recorded, stored according to the client, along with the client, come up with the client, will always be there available to you. So much like any profile in any social media, you kind of, anything that you put on your profile stays with your profile. Anything you put on a client profile here will stay with that profile. And then data markers. If you ever have the need to mark up a client as you provide support to them, regardless of what support, if you're providing follow-up texting, you're going to check in on them periodically. If you want to hang a data marker or something about that client on their profile, use data markers. And data markers can be edited by you. You go to admin and you go to data markers. Administrators can change and edit these things. We put up some samples just so that you can have an idea of what they are. But we, fully expect you to create your own set of data markers as you need them and as you need them to say. If I need to change the order, like if, for instance, we're collecting gender all the time and we're collecting, so let's say we're collecting gender and the most, then we can move gender up and the others down. And then when you're looking at the case and you're working on the case, see now gender appears at the top of the list. So what you edit and manage under that admin tab becomes visible and what you work with while you're working with the clients. Same is true for the canned phrases. You go to canned responses, whatever you edit here and work on, conclusions, your follow-up, your in progress, your introductions. Like I might want to move introductions up because introductions are the ones that we're going to start with in most cases, right? Our conversational text. Intros will be what we start with. And then conclusions will be what we end with. So I'll move the in progress maybe up as well so that I've got my intros beginning and then my in progress and then my conclusions and my follow-up. And now when I go over here to the user and I'm looking at this case and I'm open on the case, well then now we see the conversation or the canned phrases, right? And the intros are first, in progress, and then conclusions. So my intros, if we begin with that, hello, And this is where personalizing your canned phrases is nice, right? Because you don't have to use a general canned phrase for the intro. You can use a personal canned phrase that is just for your use, that has your name in it. So that's why we have that layer to it. Then when you're ready to send your message, you just click send. And then now we've got a beginning of a conversation. And to do that, I just opened up the case, right? And then I sent a message. And then that message, it went from a message that's being sent by the system to the client to a message that's being sent by somebody, right? The responder, Jonathan. And then any messages that you send are going to be sent by you, right? They'll say your name, however you want to choose to present yourself. You have a full name, and then you have a name that you use for the application, and that can be a different name. It doesn't, your clients don't see it. It's just that with crisis and domestic violence, some people like to use aliases. Of course, you can do that. This doesn't, like I said, it doesn't appear to the client. What the client sees is just the message content and the number that they're texting to. And then as you migrate through the conversation, it stays in progress until you complete the conversation. So, working with the client back and forth, getting their need met, working through the crisis or the event, getting them into the support. You could have a group of canned phrases that are just high use referrals in your community that you use a lot, that you want to text them. This is the shelter that we think is going to be most useful for your situation, or this is the person you should contact when you contact the police, or this is the, you know what I mean? I mean, having those types of resources maybe readily available as canned phrases might be something you guys are interested in using as well. So you would just add a group of canned phrases under here, admin, and you could call them high use or referrals, high use referrals. Go to canned phrases, you just go new, and then you call that whatever you want to call it, and then the content of your resource, and then save it, and that becomes a new group in your canned phrases. Pretty cool. And then as you wind down your conversation, then it's conclusions. Now, you of course, you can always type. It's just that the canned phrases, it's nice to not have to type as much. Of course, the end user's on their phone, and they're using their thumbs and they're doing what they have to do. Some people use voice translation, voice to text support if they're in their car or something like that. But for the most part, they're using their hands and texting with their hands. And so you have the benefit of texting with the keyboard. And so you get to use things like canned phrases and stuff that makes your conversations go quickly or more efficiently. Please reach out again if you need more support. That might be a closure message that I send. And then, as I said, those are those outgoing delivery receipts, right? That delivery stamp that each of your outgoing messages would have. And then when you're done with the case, you close that out and it archives and it becomes a closed case. And the next case comes in and it pops up and it's a new case. If this person were to text back, then they would be a new case. They would be a new unanswered case because it's a new conversation potentially. Might be a day from now or 2 days from now, but they would potentially text back. And if they do, we're going to push it to the top of the queue and alert you once again. This phone number has a new unanswered text. Open it up, have a new conversation. When you open up that case, realize the fact that you're going to have archived information from their prior encounter. So, which is wonderful, so that you always have an ongoing record of all of the things that transpire with each case. So it's not a mystery, and you're working with people. You're working with people that you have that you're maybe doing some case management with as well. And so you have tools available to you to assign things like case manager, the role of case manager, and versus the role of the responder. Did you have a question?
I do. So let's say Jennifer was texting with somebody yesterday, and I want to go in and read and make sure that conversation, because we're going to want to check them, to make sure that
sure.
Going on. So
sure.
But we each have our own login. So is there a common area that all these conversations are archived, or are they archived on each individual login?
Everybody will see. All cases are archived. Now, you have ways of assigning cases to certain people so that they can click mine and get right to their cases. But when you're looking at the all tab, everybody's going to see all cases, right? It's just that they will be archived. And so you can go back through your archives and look and go, okay, yeah, this was a good conversation or this wasn't. You can also always run reports. There's a report called Conversations that is just exactly that. It's an export of all of your conversations. So you could run an Excel, run a report for your conversations. It comes to you as an Excel spreadsheet. You could take that Excel spreadsheet home with you, and like you would want to, but if you ever had the need to review or analyze the work that you guys are doing, that exporting of conversations is always there for you as well. And it would just be a running ledger of all the conversations in an Excel spreadsheet, where you could just read through them. You can also, of course, look at any case in your queue, so you'll have a running ledger of all your archived cases accessible, much like an email inbox, and that when you're viewing the all tab, everybody's there. And then when you assign roles, so opening a case up, that responder role gets assigned, or you can assign a case manager role. So for instance, if you have a tough case and you want an administrator to look over that, you might want to close the case where you're not having the conversation anymore, but you assign that case an administrator so that that administrator can quickly get at that case and have a review of it. And to do that, you would just go over here to the assignments, and you would assign that person who's going to be the person who's going to look at it. And then now Jennifer can go mine, and she can click mine, and she'll see all cases that have either she is open and responding to, or that she is assigned as case manager to. So that your follow-up or your oversight, your work with them in an ongoing way, or your assessment of the work that was done is always really easy to organize and keep associated to the appropriate people. Okay. And then when you, now let's say you have a conversation with a client and you want to survey them to see how that help was. You want to get an idea of how you're doing, right? Post-encounter survey. I'm actually not going to use live. I'm going to use this tool right here. So post-encounter survey, right? So this would just be after we've had a conversation. Hey, you just texted with us. How was it? Was it okay? How would you rate it? Something like that. So you would have the ability to do something like that, or run a post-encounter survey a week from now. Hey, we after your help last week, how was it? Now, with your clientele, you probably don't want to have too many hanging texts out there. So, use it at your discretion, but it's available to you to have to use as you would need to and as you want to, and that you can have surveys that run as part of a conversation, as a precursor to having a conversation, or as after having a conversation, something that happens after that. Or you can have a survey that runs with people that you have phone conversations with. So it doesn't even have to be people that you have text conversations with that you survey. So think of surveys as a tool that you can use that might get you better data. It might get you better. In fact, it's been proven that people who answer text message surveys answer them more honestly and answer them more readily. And that data is available. That research is now readily available. And you're welcome to have a look at that wonderful, wonderful data coming out about texting. It's not just useful for this new generation of help seeker. Also useful for things like what, is always hard to get, which is qualitative data, data that tells you how you're doing. And so unlimited use of surveys and survey capacity. If I assign a survey to a client, I can click this little green button. I can choose to delay it. And if I delay it, then it's going to wait for that much time before it fires, which is nice. You can have 5 minutes later or 10 minutes later, an hour later, whatever you want, so that the survey isn't happening too close after the encounter. And then if I just don't pick any delay at all, it just starts instantly. And then you can see it there. It tells you exactly that it started. And then if I go, oh, I didn't want to assign that survey, well, then I can cancel it. And I can abort the survey at any point. So if I don't want the survey to fire, just cancel it. We're going to see this happen in real time because I assigned it without a delay. So after your recent contact with us, how do you rate the experience? Text 1 to 5, where 1 is the worst help ever, 5 is the very best. Right? So then I'm just texting back and I'm replying. And then you don't need to be, as you can see, you don't need to be open on the case to have a survey happen. And that surveys can be occurring with clients and not impact the status. The only thing you'll see if you happen to be looking at the case is a blinking of the line. It doesn't light up yellow. It doesn't sound any alarms. There's nothing that it does other than just blink periodically, letting you know that there's a survey happening. Other than that, it's all done automatically, out of sight, out of mind, which is nice. It enables you to have automated things happening with clients and not have to be hands-on with everything. And then, you send one little final message. Now, you could have a more complicated survey, right? It doesn't have to be single question. You could have a survey like your survey that you use on your website, which I came across. Now, I don't know if you're still using this survey, or if this survey is something that you guys do quite a bit of, but we can do this survey online as well, right? We can run your quality assurance survey, your safe flight satisfaction survey, and approximate it through SMS.
I do have a couple of updates for you on Upload. So I'll send you an email and appreciate, might be able to change it. We think we could talk to would be terrific, and especially the ties outreach.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm just going to wait a minute till we have the background noise done.
But like I said, I've got a couple of updates, so I'll send you an email maybe sometime this week so we get to talk for just a minute on some of the other issues I was in mind. A couple of other things here. So anyhow, I won't go on and on. I'll send you an email. Okay? Thanks.
Okay, so what we see here, guys, is that that survey that that you guys have available on your website. We can stick that on your website. We can stick that on the system, as I've done here, and you can do the same thing that you're doing, maybe by hand or by sending it in the mail, or I don't know how this gets completed because you can't complete it online. But if you have an interest in using it by text, it might just get those completed more readily, because if I can respond simply by responding to a series of text messages, might be more inclined to complete that survey. It's kind of cool. And again, this survey can be something that you assign to a client based on a text conversation. It can also be, though, based on a phone conversation you can export a group of mobile numbers as long as they are a mobile number, and you can upload that mobile number to get that survey. So, and that's super simple to do. You can pop out of the referrals tab, browse and upload your Excel spreadsheet with 15 mobile numbers of people who've contacted us that you want to survey. And then 5 seconds later, all of those mobile numbers are getting that survey, except for it's by text message. And guess what? They're replying to it. So wonderful capacity there. Don't want you to feel like you're bound to having it be the result of a text conversation or the result of something that happens first to get at that survey or begin surveys. Surveys can happen with anybody as long as you've got a good mobile number to send it to. Then we can support you with that, sending that survey. And then when the survey's done, you can run a report, and that report is called, guess what? Survey responses. So super simple. And your survey responses report's really cool. It's the phone number, the date and time of the survey, the message that was sent, and then the response that was given. So very straightforward, easy to follow in columns that are easy to, push into other columns, or, if you have any experience working with Excel, Excel's very, if you're good at it, you can really work and change and take data from one place, put it in, and all that stuff. So when you have your data like that, it's very malleable and user-friendly. And your encounters report is your equivalent to your call report. So as you have encounters with clients, you run that report to measure the efficacy of your encounters, or the fact that those encounters occurred. So our call report tells us the calls that we've had. Our encounters report tells us the text encounters that we've had. And all of those encounters will be measured by having a beginning, middle, and end. Somebody texting you or you texting them, you opening up, having a conversation with that client, closing that case after it's done. If it's not an encounter, if it's a survey, well, then that data is in the survey responses. If you send a referral to a caller, well, then that data is in your referrals report. If you want to measure staff logins and who's logging in and when they're logging in and all of that to determine, that, hey, if you're working remotely, you're logging in, and we need to know that. Staff logins report. You can also run a single responder report if you have the need for that. That's a complete export of everything they do. All of the conversations they handle, any group messaging, everything. I mean, it's a detailed report of all of their behavior with the service. So that can, be important, especially if you have a staff member that's leaving on bad terms or whatever, and you need to have a good record of what they did. Just run that single responder report, and that will be a complete export of everything they did. You can also run a responder summary report, kind of gives you a aggregate stat report on how everybody's doing, the encounters, how long the response times are, things like that. So a responder summary report gets to that, just the stats related to the conversations, not the actual conversations themselves. And before we jump away, though, from that referrals tab is fun in that referrals tab is an on-ramp to services. It's not just thinking about, I am sending a referral to a caller. Think about it in terms of, I am sending text messages to a mobile number, and that could be text messages to multiple mobile numbers, all in one fell swoop. Or I am sending a survey to a mobile number, or I am sending a follow-up text to a mobile number. So whatever the case might be, this referrals tab is an on-ramp to SMS, where you're initiating the SMS, right? You're creating that message or messages that go out to that mobile number. The moment you stick a mobile number in here, and you select and you put a message in. Now, you may not send a message at the time, right? If you're just sticking mobile numbers into the software to survey them at a later time, then fine. You would put their mobile or browse and upload their list and not put a message in here. and just select the keyword that is associated to the survey. So I'm uploading my list of 50 phone numbers to survey. Not going to put a text in here because we're not going to send them a text. We're going to send them a survey. You see? So on-ramp to texting. Now, if I've got a caller, rather than hanging up the phone, if there's a situation where caller no longer can speak on the phone, they're in a situation where their perpetrator is coming home or their perpetrator is suddenly in their space. Rather than saying, okay, you have to hang up, why not you text with us instead? We can be discreet, you can be discreet, and we're so concerned about your safety, we don't want to let you go. So I can go, okay, now you have a choice. You can go to the referrals tab, you can pop their number in here and select the keyword, or you can go admin and you go fully opt-in, put their number in here, and you select the keyword that you're going to put them in, and then you put their number in here, 831-332-0296. I'm sticking my mobile number in, and then Safe Light, and then when I click fully opt-in, they're going to get the message for Safe Light, that keyword. So I'm converting a caller to a text conversation. I could even send an extra message here saying, hi, it's Jonathan, and I'm going to be texting with you now. So Safe Light, opting into that keyword, and then fully opt in. So now we get a record up here telling us that mobile number is valid. We validate the mobile number. We can do that. We can check with all the carriers to make sure it's a valid mobile number. And then we send the messages that need to be sent to that phone number. And then you go back to the users tab and you find your case. It's going to be at the top of the queue because you just added it. And so then you click on that phone number and you can see there, okay, there it is. And there's the messages that we said we would send. The welcome message for the keyword Safe Light. If you scroll over, you'll see, rather than it being an SMS source, it's an app opt-in. So that means that we added the phone number to the queue. We didn't wait for them to text us. We put them in. So we put them in by assigning them to this keyword. And then that keyword then sends in this message, a greeting, and then the additional message that I put in box number 2. And then if I want to have a conversation with this person, I just open it up and then I'm in conversation mode, just as I was before with the prior individual, right? Except for that individual came to us a different way. That individual came to us by texting Safe Light. Now, this individual came to us because we converted them from a call to a text. So very simple to do that, to move from one channel to the next. And that might be something that becomes very useful to you all over time. Oh, you have a session starting up. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about this?
No, it seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. You know, one of the things, guys, I like to spend an hour with you initially just to kind of give you a jump start, to help you understand the basic elements of the service, right? I think that we need to schedule a follow-up session. I want you guys to give a think on, once you have a look at the FTP, once you get me your roster, we create your staff roster, and you guys start to log in, have a look at the service, have a look at the FTP, start thinking about how you can use texting, how it can be best used in your environment. And then we circle back around. We schedule a follow-up session with myself or Michael, and I'm going to be CCing Michael on all of these communications so that we're bookending our time together in a way that is, you know, comprehensive and thoughtful of you guys having a look, thinking about the software, thinking about how you want to use it, and then coming back around and doing one more session. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so please have a look at the FTP today, guys. Have a look. Oh, and when you do go to the FTP, check out the, there's one other thing that I want you to have a look at. The startup guides here. Let me see. This staff creation guide. This tells you how we set up a staff profile. Ultimately, an administrator is going to be able to set up staff profiles at your site, but we help you initially. This tells you how we set that up so that you can determine who should be an admin and who should be staff level. The main difference between an admin and a staff is admin can create and edit staff profiles of other people, not just their own. So be mindful of that. If you give somebody administrative status, you're giving them that privilege to be able to create a new profile, and edit and manage other people's profiles. So it's a clear distinction between the administrator and staff. Okay?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, guys. So I'll be sending you a follow-up email just letting you know here's where you go for the FTP. And then I'll be CCing Michael as well. And then over the next couple of weeks, I want us to all circle back around and schedule another session. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Perfect. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time so far. I appreciate it, and I will be in touch.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
No problem. Take care. Okay, man.
Coach Kathy, that